Good morning. I had such a wonderful time greeting people outdoors, I didn't realize I was late for the service. It's good to see everyone. Happy Mother's Day. It's a beautiful day. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Greater Naples. As you see on the front of your order of service, our mission states that we are a welcoming congregation freely seeking intellectual and spiritual growth. We strive to create a larger community of peace, justice, and love. Welcome, whether you're with us for the first time or whether you've been here many times. You're very welcome this morning. We're glad to see you. Join us afterwards for refreshments and conversation through the hospitality room and out onto the patio, and enjoy your company. This afternoon after the service, you also have the opportunity, and it's a good one, to have lunch, a Mother's Day lunch down in Thomas Hall to support our trip to Haiti, our service trip that 5 of our adults are going to Haiti in June. You have the opportunity to support that trip and hear a little bit about it by going down and having lunch. It is a fundraiser, so there is an entrance fee. But if you have the opportunity and the time to do that, I urge you to do so. The weekly news were passed out sort of after the fact. If you didn't get one, there's more in the back. I would draw your attention, first of all, to the luncheon, and second of all, to our Beyond Sunday program on Wednesday evening. This is the last day to sign up for the meal portion of that. Beyond Sunday is a weeknight community gathering where we have a short Vespers. We share fellowship over dinner, and then we have a couple of different activities that you can get involved with. You'll hear more about the discussion that we're going to have a little bit later. But there's also usually an art offering or a movement offering for multi-generation. So I urge you to partake of that and sign up today if you want to enjoy dinner on Wednesday. Other than that, everything's on the blue sheet or in the weekly news that you received if you get our weekly emails. If you'd like to sign up for those, please see me after the service. I would be happy to put you on the list. If you have a cell phone or any other electronic device, I would ask you to silence that now. And let us deepen now into a time of worship. This house is for the ingathering of nature and human nature. It is a house of friendships, a haven in trouble, an open room for the engagement of our struggle. It is a house of freedom, guarding the dignity and worth of every person. It offers a platform for the free voice, for declaring both in times of security and danger the full and undivided conflict of opinion. It is a house of truth-seeking, where scientists can encourage devotion to their quest, where mystics can abide in a community of searchers. It is a house of art, adorning its celebration with melodies and handiworks. It is a house of prophecy, outrunning times past and times present in visions of growth and progress. This house is a cradle for our dreams, the workshop of our common endeavor. Welcome, and let's join our voices this morning in singing our first hymn, number 1000 in the Teal hymnal. Put that one on top. We'll be using it all day. Morning has come. Please rise in body or spirit. Morning has come, arise and meet the day. Let's sing a song of gladness. The light of hope shines upon each face. May it bring faith to guide our journey home. A new day dawns, once more the gift is given. Wonder fills this moment shared together. The light of peace shines upon each face. May it bring faith to guide our journey home. Open our eyes to see that life abounds. Open hearts to welcome it among us. The light of love may shine upon each face. May it bring faith to guide our journey home. Not bad. There are some high notes in there. Once more, the gift is given. Though we did not make this day, we have the marvelous pleasure of greeting each moment as it unfolds, the wonderful joy of discovering each person anew as they present themselves to our vision. Let us find our measure in the living of this day and our wonder in sharing it with one another. Please join me in the response printed in your order of service while I light the chalice. Each morning, our children and youth are down in the RE wing, making ready for next Sunday's end-of-year service. I hope you'll all attend. I understand it's always a wonderful event. So we keep them in our hearts and minds as they do that. Today on Mother's Day, I know that I remember my mother with great affection and love. I miss her. And though I know that each one of us has a different experience of motherhood, both in the giving and the receiving, there's a wide range of experience that we need to acknowledge in this time of joys and sorrows. We also bring to mind Frank Wood, who's been in the hospital this past week. We keep him in our hearts and minds. There's a card for him out on the table. And also Barbara Van Dyne, who is recovering from back surgery. Again, a card is out in the foyer. So I urge you to think about those. If you have a joy or a sorrow that you'd like to share this morning, I ask you to raise your hand and share briefly what's in your heart after giving us your name. Joys and sorrows. For all those joys that have been spoken, we give thanks. For those sorrows that have been spoken and remain in our heart, let us take a second as we deepen into a time of meditation and sing together, Comfort Me, which is hymn number 1002 in your teal hymnal. Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul. Comfort me, comfort me. Comfort me, oh my soul. Sing with me, sing with me, sing with me, oh my soul. Sing with me, sing with me, sing with me, oh my soul. Speak for me, speak for me. Speak for me, oh my soul. Speak for me, speak for me, speak for me, oh my soul. Dance with me, dance with me, oh my soul. Dance with me, dance with me, dance with me, oh my soul. Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul. Comfort me, comfort me, my soul. Our meditation this morning was written by Monique Bondo. A state of grace. Being instead of doing. Lie still. Sit still. Be still. Experience doing nothing. Uncomfortable at first. Then liberating. Stare out the window. Breathe in. Breathe out. Feel each muscle loosen. Fix your gaze on one object. Tune in to the lack of noise. Let the quiet soothe all of you. Listen to the silence. Wrap yourself in it. Let it permeate your skin. Guide it towards your mind so it also becomes still. Be still and just be. Deep inside is the perfect space where nothing can touch you, where no one can hurt you. Breathe deeply and just be. The perfect state of grace. Still. Let's join together in our responsive reading found on your insert in your order of service. We are Bits of Starfire by Richard Gilbert. There burns within each of us a sacred spark, struck from some cosmic fire whose source we will never know. By what mysterious process are we here, we who would gaze at the stars as stranger when we are of the same stuff as they? By what miracle are we born out of a in which we are but a peripheral part and awestruck observer? Can we look at the stars and forget that we are cast from the same elements in which they burn? It is no ordinary spark that ignites our being, no ordinary fire that burns deep within. No ordinary flame that flares between the twin nights of birth and death. We who live are of the divine fire. We who live and breathe are mysteries of the universe. We who live and breathe and have our being are cosmic creatures. We are sparks of the holy come to life. We are bits of starfire. May we nourish the flame within us. May we let the light of our faith shine. And may we pass on the torch to those who follow. The second reading on this Mother's Day morning is First Lesson by Philip Booth. Without a trace of religious language, it speaks to the gift of parenting. And one of the important lessons that we can impart to our children, that of taking the time to rest in the midst of our daily struggles and let the universe hold us. Lie back, daughter. Let your head be tipped back in the cup of my hand. Gently, I will hold you. Spread your arms wide, lie out on the stream and look high at the gulls. A dead man's float is face down. You will dive and swim soon enough where this tidewater ebbs to the sea. Daughter, believe me, when you tire on the long thrash to your island, lie up and survive. As you float now where I held you and let go, remember, when fear cramps your heart, what I told you. Lie gently and wide to the light year stars. Lie back, and the sea will hold you. Morning's offering for the ongoing mission of this beautiful congregation will be greatly appreciated. Next year, I'm taking a whole different approach to sermon writing. Before my arrival this year, my first with you and my first as a practicing minister, I'm sorry to say there wasn't a lot of time for thoughtful preparation of an overall year-long service plan. I know ministers aren't supposed to share these secrets with their congregation, but at least it hasn't given me a lot of time to practice what I've already shared as my weakness for procrastination. Since starting in August, I came up with some weekly themes that others could plan on, at least a few months ahead, and I'm particularly indebted to Richard for working so hard to find musical pieces that fit those stated themes. But other than some advanced scouting for readings and source material, I haven't been working much more than a week or two ahead to create my offerings. Things I think have worked out in general, though along the way I've shifted some things late in the game to respond to situations and my own sense of what might work or what you might need. But at the same time, I've been driving Richard crazy with all of that. So what could have been better when Frank Burgesson told me last December that he had an interesting arrangement of Amazing Grace that he wanted to play when he could be scheduled for a service? I said, great, and I thought, wouldn't it be interesting and fun to talk about grace in a Unitarian Universalist context? And so he and I, along with Jeanette Boucher and Richard, came up with today's date, and we were all happy not only to have the music set, but also the sermon topic. Wow. In between then and now, I had a couple of interesting conversations with some of you about religious language, which began to make me wonder if the subject might be like some of those that I have preached here, but especially like many that I preached as a student, where I bit off a little bit more than I could chew and tried to cram 3 sermons into one. I'm hoping to avoid that in this case, and instead start a conversation about religious language where we can hear each other on the subject and also accept the responsibility of finding for ourselves a way to speak our faith in public. Perhaps we can start that this Wednesday evening when our Beyond Sunday discussion has been titled, What Do You Say? Standing Up as a Unitarian Universalist. So while we will ultimately get to grace in this sermon, the main thrust has broadened to something I hope that's a little bit more interesting. And for those of you who are waiting and hoping for a Mother's Day sermon, well, I sort of copped out, and maybe next year. Religious language, or as it has been discussed within UU circles, a vocabulary of reverence, was a pretty hot topic a decade ago, when in 2003, the Reverend Bill Sinkford, then president of the Unitarian Universalist Association, called on us to consider widening our use of religious language. Language, in his words, that would allow us to capture the possibility of reverence, to name the holy, to talk about human agency in theological terms, the ability of humans to shape and frame our world guided by what we find to be of ultimate importance. Sinkford quoted a previous UUA president, Gene Pickett, who had commented that the Unitarian Universalist Association's principles and purposes, the covenant that binds our congregations together, that covenant is printed on the back of your orders of service, describe a process for approaching religious depths, but they testify to no intimate acquaintance with the depths themselves. Sinkford's hope was that we could all become better acquainted with the depths, both so that we are more grounded in our personal faith and so that we can effectively communicate that faith and what we believe it demands of us to others. So far, I think, so good. Sinkford then shared his own experience, meaningful and powerful, of finding comfort and connection with a God of his own understanding. And while he made it clear that this was his experience and his vocabulary for that experience, he also knew that many Unitarian Universalists are bothered by the use of the word God. So he argued that for anyone else, religious language doesn't have to mean God talk, We just need to connect with and communicate that which is our personal ground of being, that which is of ultimate importance. Sinkford's call caused quite a buzz in UU land and some heated backlash. His sermon had actually been inspired by humanist minister David Bumbaugh, who had advocated for a humanist vocabulary of reverence 2 years earlier. At that time, Bumbaugh was concerned that humanists who once seemed to set the agenda for religious discourse now found themselves increasingly on the defensive, if not engaged in a monologue. In talking about humanism, Bumbaugh wrote, "I would submit that to some degree at least we are talking to ourselves because we have allowed ourselves to be defined by the opposition. We have dismissed traditional religion as an atavistic aberration. We have given up the hope of a constructive dialogue. We have manned the ramparts of reason and are prepared to defend the citadel for the mind against the renewal of superstition until the very end. But in the process of defending, we have lost the vocabulary of reverence, the ability to speak of that which is sacred, holy, of ultimate importance to us, the language that would allow us to enter once more into critical dialogue with others." In his response to Sinkford, given at General Assembly in June of 2003, Bumbaugh said that while he believed that Bill Sinkford was asking the right questions and pointing to significant challenges, he, Bumbaugh, also felt strongly that a language of reverence was not to be found in the classical forms and categories of the monotheistic Jewish and Christian traditions. If our facile optimism about the world has been challenged and outdated by the events of our time, he wrote, so have traditional language and affirmations been challenged and outdated. Bumbaugh felt that there are worthy examples of such language in our own past. Words of great humanist ministers like Kenneth Patton, who wrote the words we used to open the service this morning, and Robert Terry Weston. Bumbaugh might include Richard Gilbert, who spoke here in February on that list and who penned today's responsive reading. Bumbaugh, no slouch himself with words, points to science and the always emerging understanding of the complexities of our universe in microcosm and macrocosm that continually confound our ability to comprehend, providing a rich source for awe and wonder. He calls this unfolding reality a religious story, and that it calls us out of our little local universes and invites us to see ourselves in terms of the largest self we can imagine, a self that was present in some sense in the singularity that produced the emerging universe, a self that was present in some sense at the birth of the stars, a self that in some sense is related through time to every living thing on this planet, a self that contains within it the seeds of a future we cannot imagine in our wildest flights of fancy. There is no need for superstition or the supernatural here. The universe provides enough to challenge our sense of self and of being. As Robert Terry Weston wrote, "This is the marvel of life, rising to see and to know. Out of your heart cry wonder. Sing that we live." I am a humanist. If you hadn't figured that out by now, then there it is. Like many in our faith, however, I qualify my status. Sometimes I say that I'm a spiritual humanist. Sometimes I go far as to say that I'm a mystical humanist. But make no mistake, I do not look to anything supernatural to explain this universe or human behavior, nor do I look beyond this world to find hope for reaching beloved community. The qualification I give is based on my own experience, my own human experience, which is both rational and non-rational. And the qualification is a reaction to secular humanism, which, in defending the citadel of the mind, created a sterility that caused me and countless others to search for something deeper. Bumbaugh understood this, which is why he was advocating for a new vocabulary of reverence. If I were to push humanism towards something that could capture the imagination of a generation of people who are spiritual but not religious, I would look for it to embrace a more holistic approach to being human, utilizing language and theologies that engage the depth and breadth of our existence. Bernard Meeland, a postmodern and post-liberal theologian who taught theology at the University of Chicago, said that we live deeper than we think. We live deeper than we think. And he taught that our self-understanding does not always filter through reason. It is my conviction, he wrote, that we participate in this creative passage as a bodily event at a depth and fullness not always manageable at the cognitive level. In all of life, there are depths of awareness accompanying the bodily event of living and experience that yields conditions of knowing which language may not convey, or, for that matter, cannot convey. There is so much, I think, in the way we connect with each other, with our immediate environment and with the universe that gets processed at subconscious levels, some of it quite powerful. We need ways to connect with and articulate that experience of ourselves and ourselves in community, and for that I am less militant in demanding a particular language of reverence. Here we welcome people who have come to us from more traditional backgrounds, some of whom seek a wholesale change, and some who bring pieces of an old theology that still resonate in some way. We welcome individuals who have found in Eastern religions an inspiration for mindful living, and for those who find deep meaning in earth-centered traditions that honor and celebrate the rhythms and cycles of life. We welcome folks here who have not had the experience of a religious community and are trying, maybe for the first time, to patch together a coherent philosophy or theology of living. We welcome people who, like Bill Sinkford, are comfortable using the word God to represent something that they feel existent in their lives that is not just of themselves, be it a loving universe or spirit of life or whatever. We welcome folks like David Bumbaugh who feel more than enough awe and wonder in their encounter with this ever-surprising natural universe. And we welcome those who are still pondering. As Kenneth Patton wrote in our opening, this is a house of truth-seeking where scientists can encourage devotion to their quest, where mystics can abide in a community of searchers. The common thread, the important reason for our being here is that we offer freedom of religion. Here we are free to explore, to ask questions, to be exposed to the wisdom of the ages, the wisdom of our fellow travelers, and the wisdom we carry with us based on our own experience. Our universalist heritage tells us that it is our whole selves that we must bring to the table, not just our reason. And yes, our Unitarian heritage reminds us that we must ultimately articulate what we ultimately articulate as our faith must pass the test of reason. Both traditions remind us that this kind of work cannot be done in a vacuum, but we need community to help us, to sustain us, to guide us. This can be messy at times and requires us all to live with one another in that messiness, sometimes comfortably and sometimes not so comfortably. Again, Kenneth Patton speaks to this, reminding us that this house offers a platform for the free voice, for declaring both in times of security and danger the full and undivided conflict of opinion. Some may feel that in my own use of language I veer too far in one direction or the other. I've heard both. But you hired me to minister to this entire congregation, and I am comfortable with a little ambiguity. Which brings us finally to the word grace. Some of you may have heard or read the Reverend Victoria Safford's wonderful meditation on Amazing Grace in her Unitarian Universalist congregation, on singing Amazing Grace in her Unitarian Universalist congregation in Matamidi, Minnesota. She points to the bizarre moment in the first verse where our hymnal plunks down an asterisk and offers a choice. Do you sing Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me? Or that saved a soul like me? Safford wonders what other hymnal would call for a theological debate within the heart and mind of every singer right in the middle of a hymn, and not give you but a split second to make up your mind. There you stand, staring at the hymnal, frozen in time, and the music plays on while you hastily cobble a theology. The ultimate point of Safford's meditation is that we are on our own to make a faith out of nothing, which is to say, out of everything we have. It is a demanding and relentless work, she says, the work of a lifetime. And yet sometimes we are forced to make decisions within the time it takes to sing a half note. Of course, there are some of us who don't really like singing either wretch or soul, and wonder why we would sing the hymn in the first place. It is much loved, don't get me wrong. I sort of like it. But a bigger theological question might hinge on the title. Why would Unitarian Universalists sing about grace? The hymn itself was written by John Newton in the 1870s to honor an earlier conversion experience that ultimately turned him away from his admittedly wretched life as a ship captain who made his living by transporting slaves. Newton eventually became an Anglican priest and provided information to Parliament that helped to end British participation in the slave trade. And for Newton and for all Christians, the term has specific theological connotations. There are two kinds of grace, both of which are unexpected and sometimes undeserved gifts from God. Where actual grace is more like a supernatural kick in the pants that will get the will and intellect moving, sort of what John Newton felt. Sanctifying grace is a permanent gift of holiness. It is the gift of salvation. For example, the grace of salvation that God gave Mary at the moment of conception. She was from that time on free from original sin. It is with these definitions in mind that some of our movement would suggest that grace should not be in our vocabulary. But the word has been around a lot longer and has had a life of its own outside Christian theology. In the 4th century BCE, Aristotle talked about grace as being the natural force that takes the good that we do for and one another, to and for one another, and returns it and magnifies it. A natural and freely given gift in response to the goodness that others bestow on us. And a form of this definition can still be found in the Merriam-Webster's dictionary. In line with this meaning, UU minister Lynn Unger suggests that grace has to do with the giftedness of life, something that comes not from ourselves, but through ourselves. In explaining this through the lens of ancient Chinese philosophy and religion, Unger equates a state of grace as being akin to following the Tao, the path, and moving with the flow of the river rather than against it. I think that is in part what Monique Bondeau shared with us in her poem. Settling in and breathing deeply to get to a point where we can release from our constant striving and move instead with the flow. I sort of like this idea of finding the flow and thinking about grace as the gift of life in the universe that we can tap into and then repay in our wonder and in our offerings to each other. How about you? Is grace a word that holds meaning for you? Or is it one more piece of a past that you need to let go? Or maybe it lacks certain concreteness that you may require in your own language of reverence. The point of all this is that we are here as human beings to sort through some pretty big ideas about life and death and how we fit into the grand scheme of things. In sharing with one another, we need a way of expressing our ideas that is rich enough to do this work justice. And we need a way to effectively communicate that faith and what we believe it demands of us to others. So, let's keep talking. We sometimes struggle to find the words for our everyday conversations. Creating a story of our deeper selves in a language that does that story justice is the work of a lifetime. But that doesn't mean we don't engage in dialogue to help others understand where we are on the path, how the current story speaks to our ground of being, and what it calls us to do in the wider world. Let's join together in singing hymn number 1028 in the Teal hymnal, The Fire of Commitment. Please rise in body or spirit. Richard will play it once through. May we nourish the fire within us. May we let the light of our faith shine. And may we pass on the torch to those who follow. Go in peace.